So, welcome to the Authentic Creative, expanding our capacity to feel good. My heart is so warm because I know that we are going to have a heart opening, connective dialogue. And I know it's going to be inspirational, and I know it's meant to be. Like, I just know that this conversation was always meant to be. It was written in the stars. No pressure. But I just quickly want to read your bio, Celeste. Thank you so much for being here because it's it's a big deal to have your time and your expertise with us. I want to get your bio out there and then jump into a juicy conversation with you. So, Dr. Celeste, do I say Chiam?
Yeah, that's correct.
Chiam,
Yes.
okay, thank you, is a passionate spirit, devoted educator, nurturer of creativity, and expressive pianist who loves dancing. She received her Bachelor of Music from Ithaca College, continued on to the University of New Mexico for Master of Music, and graduated with her Doctor of Musical Arts degree in piano performance at the Conservatory of Music and Dance, University of Missouri, Kansas City. Just right there, that's so amazing and fascinating and beautiful. I'm so excited about all of that information. Celeste enjoys a broad spectrum of the performing arts, from her roots in the classical genre and ballet training to musical theater, popular music, and in recent years, Argentine tango music and dance and acting. She delights in collaborating and performing with like-minded artists to ignite love and hope, uniting through education, arts, and culture. Celeste believes in the goodness of humanity, which stems from her practice in the philosophy of Nichiren Buddhism with the Soka Gakkai International, a diverse and global community in 192 countries and territories. Centering on respect for the dignity of life, SGI members are committed to meaningful dialogue, connection, and nonviolence initiatives based on the conviction that individual happiness through inner work, called human revolution, leads to positive transformations and the realization of peace. I mean, okay, so I just want to say Celeste and I have never met other than just messaging each other. I saw your interview and you were speaking about Buddhism, and I was so lit up and excited and inspired by everything you were sharing. You were like this just hose of channeling this like Buddhist wisdom, and it was just so invigorating to listen to. And I was like, ooh, yeah, I gotta talk to her. This is gonna be good. I gotta get her on the podcast. And you
Oh,
were so excited and delighted, and here we are.
yes, Siri. Oh, thank you so much for inviting me to have this juicy conversation together. I am so looking forward to meeting you in person soon. But yes,
Yes!
I felt when you connected, I felt like this, charge, like this little, so
Yeah.
meant to be, as what you said. And I'm so excited to share this, wonderful, whatever wisdom I feel like there's so much more to learn. So I'm not sure if I have everything down. I don't think I could ever because, learning is a lifelong process. But everything that I feel so excited to learn about, I'm so happy to share.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's start from the beginning. Talking about being an educator. So when you say you're a devoted educator, tell me about this. Like, in what ways are you an educator? Is that still going on today? Obviously, you're an educator of Buddhism.
Yes, so I feel that Buddhism is already interweaved in my life, right? When I talk about educator, I mean more through my music lessons that I give to children.
Okay.
I don't, I don't see myself as just a music teacher. I see myself as a life educator because everything that I'm sharing with them through the tool of music, they are life skills, right? And everything that I know about Buddhism just, little things like teaching them how to pick themselves up. When you lose yourself in music, right? How do you refocus? How do you not beat up on yourself? How do you get back on track, right? How do you believe in yourself in
Mm.
music? How do you practice music, just like our Buddhist practice is a form of practice, right? You really strengthen the muscle so that when you actually go to perform the music, you enjoy the flow of it. You're kind of in that flow state, right?
Yes,
So many
yes.
things that I feel that I am educating and raising these young people through music. So music is my tool. So that's why I call myself a nurturing educator, because the conventional modality of music teaching, especially music teaching, it's like very disciplined, hardcore. I mean, that's sort of where I came from. Uh,
Okay, yes.
and a lot of times when we get into that type of learning, the joy is lost. There's
Mm.
no joy in it.
Because
And
the discipline of it can kind of take that away, but you're really giving that spark within the discipline to your
yes,
students.
uniting the two, and also uniting what I've learned in Buddhism, the belief that everybody possesses this Buddha nature within them, their best potential, right? So I enter every lesson with this idea that every student has their unique ways of their best potential, even in the learning of music. Now, my job is not necessarily just to teach them facts and technique and musicality, but how do I bring that out of them? How do I
Mm.
inspire them to
Mm.
feel that within themselves, right? How do I use the tool of music learning to really activate everything that is already endowed in their lives? So that is that part, the nurturing part, I feel that we all need.
Yeah.
We need to be nurtured into being alive. So that's why I call myself a nurturing educator.
Yeah, you are bringing people to life, whether it's through your music or through dance or through Buddhism or any of these various ways that you share your light and your channel. Like, it doesn't really matter what we're teaching, it's like who we're showing up as. And I think that's what you're talking about in a broader sense is like you're just showing up as this life force that's in a high vibration. And so, whatever you're teaching or however you're going about that almost doesn't matter. It's
Wow.
really,
Yeah, I love the way you summarize everything, Siri. Oh my, that, wow. Okay. Yes, that sounds so beautiful. Thank you.
so I love the fact that you're an actor and you're a dancer, you're a pianist, you're into all types of creativity, and this is called the authentic creative. So I am curious about you as a creative. So were your parents creatives? Is that how that started? Did you get that from them, or are you sort of an original in your family? Where did that start?
Okay. Well, I feel that in the context of normal human lens, I am an original in my family in the sense that my parents were not musicians.
Okay.
I feel so fortunate that my mom did not have the opportunity to learn piano, but she really loved music. My dad loved singing, but we came from, I came from Malaysia, so we're Chinese, born in Malaysia. And being in the lower class family, it was very difficult to have those opportunities, right? My parents. So they wanted to give me what they didn't have. It's
Mm.
quite a typical Asian mentality there, which is so noble in a sense. And so when my mom brought me to,
Were they were born in Malaysia?
yes, they were also born in Malaysia. Yes, my
Okay.
family originally from Hainan Island. My mom, yeah, as far as she knows, her family, they were born in Malaysia. But my dad, for sure, his parents were born in Hainan Island in China. So yeah, so they're just, they themselves didn't get the opportunity. So they enrolled me in music classes. Interestingly, mystically, my dad named me Celeste, right? Celeste, Celestial. There's an instrument called Celesta. And somehow, I think just the blueprint of my life is very musically inclined and
Mm.
dance. creative, just very creative in general, I can feel. So when I was young, my parents sent me to music lessons, and the natural gift just sort of expressed itself. And then my teachers recognized that and told my parents, I have some talent in these. And so my dad worked very hard for me to be able to continue music and dance lessons. They're so expensive.
Mm, yeah. And was that in America when you were taking these lessons? That was in Malaysia.
Richa,
Yeah.
yes. So expensive, but I felt that my way of showing my gratitude was to do my best, like really, really immerse myself in doing my best to show them, hey, thank you for all these opportunities. And my dad worked for the government as immigration officer. So he had a lot of challenges and struggles. So I'm again very fortunate, very not non-typical Asian mentality that my parents have. My dad said to me, I want you to be able to pursue what you love so
Mm.
that you can always just be working for yourself and you don't have to deal with a lot of the challenges that I had to deal with. So I felt that was his gift to me. And my mom's gift to me was her devotion, her dedication to just always finding the best teacher, asking questions, really nurturing me for me to be able to do what I love. And, again, like music is just not very popular in terms of, generating income, right? And so
Right.
yeah, very fortunate to have my wonderful parents who nurtured these gifts in me, the creative gifts in
How
me.
did you get here? What was that journey like?
Okay, so this is where Buddhism comes in because
Okay.
I've been practicing Buddhism all my life with my mom.
Yeah, so
And
you're what's called a fortune baby. So for you
yes,
guys listening, fortune baby is also what my husband is. And a fortune baby is someone whose parents were practicing before they were born, right? So they were like literally like born into the practice of Buddhism. Whether they took it up or they didn't take it up, you're considered a fortune baby. Is that right?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And my dad at the time did not practice yet, but he supported the practice. My mom did. So I've practiced all my life, but as a teenager, I had my own questions and I had to develop my own journey, my own connection.
Yeah.
So I kind of explored other things, went to church with my friends and all of those. And then when it came time to apply for colleges, at that time we didn't have, I mean, internet was very new. I'm kind of aging myself, but uh, and so I had to go to the U.S. Embassy to find out which schools I wanted to apply to, and everything in my life just happened to be in rhythm. And I knew that the only way I could go and study abroad was to get full scholarship because my parents could afford the currency in Malaysia is so much weaker than American dollars or, the British pound. So
Hmm.
I just decided, okay, I have this tool that I was told if I chant, I can have, manifest my dreams. My dreams can come true. I've seen bits of it when I was young. Every time I chanted, I did well in exams. So I thought, okay, this is my only tool. Let me
So
just,
you had these little pieces of proof that you developed over time. It wasn't through blind faith, it was through testing your practice that you started to like build this solid sense of, I know this can work for me. Okay,
yes.
okay.
And in our organization, Soka Gakkai International, we have meetings, discussion meetings, study meetings, as you know, and we come together, share what we learn about the principles of practice, and then how do we apply it in daily life, right? So ever since I was young, I've heard many people's experiences, how they applied the Buddhist practice, and
Yeah,
how they have seen evidence, actual proof. We call them actual proof, but evidence in life that this is working, that this is
yeah.
effective. So I believe that was also where I gathered the courage and the, sort of like the, okay, I'm going to use this and try this on my own as well.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a choice really. I mean, it was like, either that or I can't go anywhere. My parents can't pay for me, right? So
Mm,
did that and then I chanted for full scholarship. I created my own chanting chart and I chanted
yeah.
Myoho Renge Kyo. And then mystically, well, one other thing, Malaysia's education system ends in December. So we don't quite follow the American, like
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
summer. So for my last year of high school, my big exam was, December. And when I did the application, I saw that they asked if I wanted to enter the university in January or wait till fall, August.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I just,
You're like,
I,
let's go.
yeah, so ready to soar music. I was like, January. I don't know how I was gonna make that happen. I just put it down. So, mystically, I got the call from Ithaca College, the administrator from Ithaca College. And in the meantime, I've done some auditions, right? There were representatives from other schools to give auditions. They came to Malaysia. But this particular one, I recorded cassette and sent it to America, right? Along with
Yeah.
application. And I got a call from the administrator. And she said, I just want to check with you. Do you still want to come in January? I was so excited. But I had the wisdom, right? I had the wisdom at that time to say to her, and the courage also. I didn't think I could say this to her, but because I'd been chanting,
Hmm.
so I'm bringing forth my inner wisdom and courage. And I
Hmm.
said to her, yes, I would love to go in January, but I have to have full scholarship. Otherwise, my parents cannot afford to send me.
Yeah.
And okay, well, let me check on that. I'll get back to you soon. And
Wow.
I checked with my professor. It turned out the most prestigious scholarship from the music school at Ithaca wasn't given out to anyone. And
Wow.
yours, full tuition. And so she said, well, your professor really wants you, and we are awarding you this scholarship. So that was my first mystical mind blown. Like,
Amazing. You asked for what you needed. You asked the universe, you were like, okay, but I want it now. And also, this is what I need. And then the universe responded.
yes.
I
And
love it. I love it.
the most mystical part was that how was it just sitting there? It felt to me like it was just
Yes.
waiting for me.
It was
It was
waiting for you.
there was no lack of talent. My class, right? There was so many
Mm.
people. Why was that not awarded to anyone? And I'm
Mhm.
coming in the middle of the semester in January.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it just felt to me that was my first mystical, still up till today, the most mystical I felt evidence of, I have many more after that, but just for it to just how was it just waiting for me? So this was I think my first
It was written in the celestial stars.
yes,
Yes. Yes.
with
Yes. Yes.
confirmation. Yes, that
It's
this is
so funny because I got into Ithaca, but I didn't go. So it's just interesting.
oh
Yeah.
that's
I
amazing.
ended up
Okay.
at a different school, but I should have gone to Ithaca. And then
Oh,
maybe
where did you
I don't
go?
know. I don't know if we're this around the same age or not, but
Oh, where did you go?
I went to Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Okay. Oh, we could have met, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Now
Yeah, exactly.
fine timing that we're meeting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So you have your parents kind of living the life, appreciating music, appreciating the arts, but not quite being able to live the dream and not really being able to like fully have this ownership of their life in the way, but then all of a sudden you are encouraged and with all this gratitude, like you show through proof of your life, like I am gonna show my gratitude. I'm gonna, step up and then you end up here in America.
Mhm.
And so I'm curious about, you know, being away from everyone you know, your whole culture, your whole family, being in Ithaca, it's freaking cold there. It's winter most of the time. Like, was that really hard? Were you depressed ever? Were you just like stressed out? Did you bring your Buddhist scroll, your whole altar with you? And were other people like, why is she chanting? Like, what was that like?
Yes. So I had this the portable what we call
Okay, the Amamori.
yes for people who
Okay.
travel. And I did chant in my I mean that was my anchor point, right? And back then it was hard. Back then we didn't have FaceTime. We didn't, like to make an international phone call on the payphone. It was
Yeah,
really
right.
expensive or you have to get a card. Um, so it was very hard. However, I feel at least with this organization, I always feel that we will have a family no matter where we go. 'Cause as you
Yes.
mentioned earlier, right? We're all over 192 countries. So I knew there were connections I could make here with the community. And
Okay.
welcomed in, right? Interestingly, I did have to make some effort. The first time that I tried to call the New York Culture Center to connect me to the local organization Ithaca, somehow I couldn't get through to them.
Okay.
Back for summer. I even thought I couldn't go back home for summer because my mom said to me, just be prepared. We may not have money for you to come home.
Oh,
So it was very hard. I did cry,
oh, oh
But
my
I chanted
gosh.
in my dorm room always, every day. That was my anchor point.
Wait,
And
so where was the closest district to you when you were
it
there?
was actually really close. That
Okay.
was, but somehow I wasn't able to connect. So when I went back for summer, I ended up was some again mystically. My dad worked overtime. This that the funds came together, so my parents were able to get me home for the summer.
Oh, bless
So
them.
yes, when I shared that, my mom said, "Okay, we need to chant. We really need to chant for you to make that connection." So
Yeah.
I did, and then when I went back, I called the same number and it went through. I don't know why in the beginning it didn't. So I did connect to the local organization and the women's division at that time. I was youth, right? So
Hmm.
women's division leader over there who supports the local organization. She was sort of I call her my Buddhist mom because my mom
Yeah.
is far away. So she's the one I always go to for support. And once I got connected, I didn't feel alone. I did feel that I adapt pretty well. I think
Okay.
that somehow I felt that was again my tool that and the skill that I've developed over time being in the organization, always around people, always, making new friends. So that skill was already in me. And by the way, I was also very excited to study music. So not just that my parents, gave me the opportunity, I felt that that was already inside my life waiting to be expressed. So I was very excited. So once I came here, it was just like
Let's
full
go.
gear.
Yeah. And you were around other people who are passionate about music and the arts. So that must have been so enlivening for you to just be on your own in that sense and like be around other people that got you and were interested in what you were interested in, and you could all create together and learn together.
Yes, so
Yeah.
energizing, super energizing. And I'm a generator in human design, so you can imagine that motor just keeps going. And so with the organization being there to support me, Soka Gakkai family, we call it Soka family. I always felt supported. I always felt nurtured in the spiritual sense. And so whatever challenges I faced, in terms of being alone, I did cry from being homesick.
Yeah.
Still, I was able to always create value. So that's another principle in our practice. Soka Gakkai actually means value creating. So I was always able to utilize any challenges to create value and transform it into life lesson, transform it into fuel for my growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Like pain into medicine,
Mm.
using that loneliness, and you probably channeled it into your art.
Yes. To be fair, I was not lonely. I did feel homesick.
Okay.
But again, another concept in this Buddhist organization, in this Buddhist practice is it's called Shoten Zenzin, which is
Yes.
protective forces of the universe, and they are not like magical gods or anything. They're just in the forms of people, friends, people around you, people in our environment that function as protective forces. So even my professor himself, I mean, not only was he the one who said, "I want her, get her here," right? Like give her the scholarship, he was also the one that everybody else told me he was very grumpy. He, had a difficult life circumstance that made him, very strict and grumpy. But he was always so kind and so sweet to me. So I saw him as my protective force. He treated me like, he didn't have any children, but I felt like he treated me like a daughter. His wife worked at Cornell, taught Chinese at Cornell. So
Mhm.
he would bring me over to Cornell campus and meet with other Malaysian students, other Singaporean students. So I didn't feel lonely. I always had friends who were just I felt were there to, be with me, like my protective forces, and together, we learn together, we grow together. So
So
that
were
was
you chanting morning and evening during that time, that period of time?
yes, yes.
Yeah. So that's probably why. It's like your life force was creating was reflecting back to you these circumstances, like you were bringing out the Buddhahood in the people around you, it sounds like. Yeah,
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. And this concept is, as you mentioned, whatever is in my environment reflects what's within, right? So with the faith that I have, that I'm always supported, with my own practice, I'm activating all these forces in the universe because I'm part of the flow. So then whatever the flow, right, which is abundant, right? Whatever the flow contains, which is, richness, wealth, health, everything, connection, it all gets reflected back to me in my environment. So
Yes. And you were putting yourself in rhythm with the universe,
by chanting every day.
right? Like so that you are in the right place at the right time and having those experiences that were synchronistic because you're just in that flow you were just talking about. Okay. So keep bringing us through your life now. Like what's
Okay.
next after Ithaca?
Okay, so after Ithaca, I decided, I met my ex-husband and I went to visit him in Albuquerque. At the time, I was looking at grad schools. So again, being synchronistically the right place at the right time, I was in the practice room to practice, getting ready for all my auditions, and I met with one of the students who were studying at Albuquerque, University of New Mexico, and he talked about this new professor who came from Germany, and he talked really highly about him, and I was thinking, oh wow, okay, I didn't think about applying to this school, but hey, why not? And my boyfriend at the time, right, is there. So I said, okay, well, could I meet with him? He said, oh yeah, his office, So I just went to his office and I let the professor know that I was applying for a master's, getting into grad school. And he said, why don't you audition for me while you're here? So I was like, okay, sure. So I prepared, and then I think I was there for 2 weeks. So 1 week later, I auditioned and he said, I really want you to come to this school. I want you to be my student. And I
Mm.
said, okay, same thing. Again, I'm like, okay, just so you know, I can't afford anything. I need like assistantship, scholarship, everything. And he said, okay, well, try the international scholarship that's through, international department, and let me know what happens. So I applied for that. Now, because that international department only gives out maybe three three scholarships or five, very few, but it's to all departments, not just music, all departments, and
Okay.
tended to go towards the engineering school more. So I didn't get that. So I got back to the professor and said, I didn't get the international scholarship. He said, okay, let me talk to the dean. So he talked to the dean of the School of Music and created an assistantship position so that I could be awarded that and come to the school. So again, it's like my practice. The whole time I'm chanting. I met my ex-husband at the Buddhist conference. So every single thing in my life, I've always based it on my Buddhist chanting, Buddhist practice. And I always see these wonderful synchronicities come about, and just so grateful for all of this. So then I did my master's.
It
And
also reminds me that story you're just telling now of this concept of the third door that we've been talking about, right? Of like getting out of line and saying, well, there's another way. Like,
yes,
what's
yes.
the other way? There's always a way.
Yes, yes. Oh, shall I go into the principle of Ichinen Sanzen? So it's 3,000 realms in a single moment. Okay. This is so
I
I
love, I love, I love, I love that principle, by the way. So
yeah.
please, yes.
Okay, do you want me to share? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I love to study Buddhism. So that's the other thing, right? Aside from chanting, this practice is about the three essential pillars to really have this, well-rounded practice and manifest the full potential within us, which is our Buddha power, Buddha ability, right? So the three are faith, study, and practice. So faith, we know, right? Like really having faith, having the trust in our ability as innately this endowed, fully endowed Buddha nature within us that we may not be awakened to if we didn't, chant, or we didn't hear about this or didn't know. So this practice in a sense, to awaken that within us. So having faith, and then practicing means practicing for oneself and others. So not only are we practicing to build that spiritual muscle within us, and constantly tuning our vibration and frequency, right? But also practicing to help others, because when we're able to awaken and together be in that high vibe, right? Then imagine like what kind of magic we can all create together. And that is where the basis of peace actually could be realized, right?
Mm.
And then study. Now, because we are human, so we do need that cerebral part, right? To really understand what we're doing and in
Yeah,
our
to like build our faith more because that logic brain wants something to hold on to, right?
Yes, yes, and it's not blind faith. We're actually encouraged to have that seeking spirit, to really seek and learn more about this practice. It's so profound, right? It's so profound. So, so this principle, Ichinen Sanzen, you were talking about the third door. Imagine,
Yes.
imagine 3,000.
Mm.
3,000 dimensions in a single moment. So it is this principle where um in our practice, we talk about the 10 worlds. So the 10 worlds are life states. They're not actual worlds, but they're life states that we go through. If I use maybe common term, it may be like our mood, right? Like every
Hmm.
day we're in like different moods. We could be in like really blissful mood. Some days we could be like really suffering, and that's like hell mood.
Hmm.
So these 10 worlds from hell all the way to Buddhahood is is always within us, and we don't go by climbing each stair. We could instantly shift from one to another depending on external factors, internal factors. Everything could spark that, right? So that's 10
Hmm.
worlds. And then within this 10 worlds is called the mutual possession of 10 worlds. So within each world, even in the world of hell, the other nine exist. Okay, so this is the reason why we say that we don't need to be climbing up the steps of life condition to experience Buddhahood. Even in the world of suffering, when we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we could activate that Buddhahood in the world of hell, just as we are. We don't have to be monks, nuns, whatever. Just as we are, we can access that Buddhahood even when we're suffering and activate that and create value out of it. So
So
that
inspiring.
10 times 10, so that's 100. And then there's another thing called 10 factors. So
Hmm.
those are factors of appearance, nature, forms, perceptions, all of these. We go through life also revolving around the 10 factors. So many things, so many layers in our lives, right? So the 10 factors could affect how we view things, how we interpret things, all of that. So 100 times another 10 is 1,000. Okay. And then the three realms of life. So the first realm is the realm of form. So sort of in summary, perception, volition, all of that. So in summary, our physical and our spiritual form, let's just call it that, right?
Hmm.
Okay. And then the second realm is how these forms get manifested, how we experience life through this form. That's the second realm. The third realm is the realm of environment. So first and then second is living beings. Third is environment. So environment just means the environment we're in, how it supports us as living beings. So 1,000 times these three realms is 3,000. So any of those little pieces in this 3,000 could shift in one moment. What we're experiencing is just one of those 3,000 dimensions that are available. And so when we chant, we're opening up our lives to these 3,000 possibilities. Like, the universe is infinite, right? So there's 3,000 possibilities in one single moment.
It reminds me of Doctor Strange at the end of the Marvel movie. I forget which one it is. Is it like Endgame or something? Where he looks at every single possibility and he's like, it was always gonna be inevitable. But then he's like, but there was one thing that was gonna go a different way. And he like is able to perceive every single possibility. It reminds me of that.
That's right. That's right. Great. Yes, great example. Yes. So when we chant, when we get stuck in a place and then we start chanting, we open up. It's almost like we're opening our eyes, like we're opening our wisdom, the third eye, right? And we can perceive everything in its true nature,
Mm.
which also means we can perceive the universe in with infinite possibilities, that 3,000 dimensions that we could potentially experience. We only see one or two options sometimes, and that's why we feel stuck. And when we chant, we move, the vibration of our lives. We change the trajectory, the angle in which that we're heading, and that could continually transform our life and grow, and we expand all of it. So that principle is just so amazing, not to
So
hear.
good.
So good, isn't it so juicy? It's like,
I love that through your study, Celeste, you're able to explain this to us because I love the concept, but I haven't done enough study like you have to be able to explain it as well as you just did. So thank you for that. And it really, that educational piece, it really is acts as such an inspiration and such a foundation for confidence.
yes, yes, because I mean, we know, like, we're told, okay, when we chant, we can manifest anything. But our human mind only perceives lack most of the time, right? Limitations,
Mm,
however we're conditioned, right? With all
mhm.
the limitations in the society, our families, whatever we've experienced, that's the only thing we know, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to study and understand, like, oh, how could this work? And then, it's just so exciting after I read about that. Then when I go to chant again, I have I come from a different place, right? I come from this life state or this vibration of, wow, this frequency, it's so high. I'm not sure if there's, a ceiling to it, right? So it's like tapping into that and then feeling the abundance of the universe and really, how can I stay there longer, right? And
Mm,
how do I apply that in my daily worlds where,
yeah.
I mean, we could just be Zen all day long if we just chanted, but we do have to come and interact with our human world. So,
Yeah, and that's why our eyes are open when we're chanting. You're just reminding me also, I know we're going on a tangent here, but like the feeling that I get sometimes when I really put myself to practicing and in front of the Gohanzen and I'm chanting and I get into a flow and a rhythm and it actually makes me desire to study that feeling. It's like the world of learning, right? Like it like actually it's a cyclical thing. It's like the more that you chant, the more that you want to study, and the more you study, the more that you want to chant.
yes, yes, it's kind of fueling each other, isn't it?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
we were talking about your story, so let's
Oh,
come
coming back to
back.
okay.
Like so you were meeting your last husband and you were getting into that whole thing about, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I did my master's and then I got pregnant and then got married. And again, very mystically timing wise, I have 2 years for grad studies, right? So I had our son in the summer and then jumped right back to school, completed my studies, and that I have to say was tough because
Hmm.
coming from my Buddhist culture, my Asian culture, right? My mom and my dad worked so hard for me to have this opportunity, and they had very high hopes of me. And then boom, I got pregnant. And then in their minds, it's like, oh, that's the end of her life because now she
Mm.
has to become a mom. Now she has to raise a child.
Mhm.
Um, Again, very fortunate that at the time my ex-father-in-law told me, "Oh, in America you can do everything. Don't worry." And I was like, "Okay, I'm not sure how, but this okay." So again, I utilized my practice, right? And um, I was able to continue my grad school, raise my son, and I was so young and I wasn't sure what I was doing, but at the same time, I was always again, practicing, chanting, studying, going to meetings and getting encouragement by all the other practitioners, being nurtured. So I grew so much during those years. And um, after I graduated, I told my parents, in a way, their disappointment was sort of a fuel to my growth. And so, and again, in this sect of Buddhist practice, now I want to clarify this because in other sects of Buddhism, there's this notion of detaching from desires.
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Our sect of Buddhism is more about the final teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, which is that we all have this Buddha ability, and we don't need to detach and renounce our earthly desires to gain enlightenment. In fact, that is what will lead us to it, right? Because we're all human with
Yes.
human world,
Earthly
so
desires equal enlightenment. Yes.
correct. So those are our motivation, our fuel, to be able to live well, but the intention always, no matter where you come from, once you utilize this practice, you would want to, it becomes serving, like you want these things for yourself, yes, and practice for oneself and others. And then you start to serve others. It becomes fuel for encouragement to others, to help others see, how they can expand their lives when they're stuck and how to overcome their challenge. So it becomes a fuel for enlightenment.
Were you
So
doing home visits during this period of time? Like, how was that, for you? Because I know for me, like when I was a leader and I was doing home visits, the manifestations would just happen because of those home visits.
yes,
Yes.
yes, I was given opportunities to support others. So, in your words, leaders, like we have leaders in this organization, but it's all nonprofit. We don't get paid for anything. It's just that we have a little more experience in our practice, so we serve as leaders to support others' practice. So, because of my responsibility as a leader, I did go out for home visits, and I want to explain why. Like the way you said it was like so cool, right? Like, yeah, go home visits and like boom, boom, boom. And that's because one of the higher life states is bodhisattva. Bodhisattva state is where we are helping others. So when we are in the action of going out and helping others, supporting their practice, sharing this Buddhism, we instantly get on that life state of bodhisattva. And because of that, right, like again, tuning into our higher frequency, things flow. And this is why it's not magic. This is what I love about Buddhism. Everything has reason. Everything has some kind of explanation. But of course, there's the mystical part where, things that we can't see, like, love and law of gravity, law of cause and effect. We can't see, but we can feel all of
The
that. So
Myo,
yeah,
yes.
yes, Neo. We should get into that later. But home visits, chanting together, practicing together, taking on the role of a leader to help others, all of that, I see that as, such, this platform of our Buddhist practice is such, to me, such a nurturing platform, because out in the world with news and negativity, they're everywhere, right? But to be in a community that constantly nurtures people and empower them, that's just such a privilege, I feel, and such an honor for me to be a part of this community.
Yes, and bringing people back to themselves, to their wisdom, to their knowing, to their authority, as opposed to like, let me point you towards this person. It's really about like, let me point you towards yourself. Let
Yes,
me
yes,
put you in front of your own mirror, and I'm going to I'm going to sit next to you and help you look in the mirror, and I'm going to look in my mirror too. And the mirror being our Gohanzen, right? Our altar, like this is representing our life when I say
yes,
mirror. Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah. Okay, so then let me share a little bit about the Gohonzon. So we don't worship any statue. We have a scroll that we chant, and that's an object of our focus. The scroll itself has Nam-myoho Renge Kyo down in the middle. So Nam-myoho Renge Kyo means devotion to the mystic law of cause and effect through our voice. So our devotion is our practice, right? When we practice, we're devoting. And then the mystic law of cause and effect is what we believe to be the law that pervades the universe, right? Cause and effect. And what I love about Buddhism is it's not punishment and reward, which is like
Mm.
regular society. There's no such thing as like, I do something, I get punished or reward. There's no external God that does that to us, right? But the law of cause and effect means that every cause that we make, there is an effect.
Yeah,
So
like think what you say, what you do. Yeah.
yes, exactly. So it's like we are fully empowered to transform our lives based on what causes we make. in our lives. And we're all born with already a bag of maybe causes that we've accumulated through our lives. We believe in reincarnation, right? And even in this lifetime, there could be habits and patterns. And I think of those as, habits and patterns over time, lifetimes, and even in this lifetime that we've accumulated. So the word karma just means, action, right? All the things that we've accumulated, the patterns. So with that, right, we can always alter our life by changing the causes we make. So this mystic law of cause and effect is very, in a way, very strict, very factual. It's like, there's no emotion to it. Like make the cause and then you will see the effect, right? So make positive causes towards your life. But it's not just positive causes as in like doing good deeds. It's deeper than that. We already have, a lot of, I don't want to get deeper into the nine consciousness. Maybe that'll come up later. I'll let it flow. But I'll stay to this point.
Yeah.
And so with that, there's also this parallel ringe means, simultaneity of cause and effect. And just like the lotus flower, it blooms and seeds at the same time. And then the beautiful thing is it blooms in muddy waters. So even when we're in this like muddy condition of the Saha world, this current world full of negativity, we cannot bloom in our authentic, pure self. And the fact that every time we make a cause, the effect is already there. We are simultaneously already seeing the effect. Now, when that happens, when that unfolds, depends on many factors like the timing. Buddhism, a lot of things in life is about timing too, right?
Yeah, it's like sowing a seed and you don't know when that seed's going to bloom. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's timing to things. So that's Nam, and then Myoho is mystic law, Ringe, and then Kyo. Ringe was the lotus flower cause and effect. Kyo is voice. So through our voice vibration, we are, not just sharing, but tuning our lives. And we're sharing this Buddhism. We're using our voice and vibration to really be in alignment to our authentic Buddhahood. And Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is also the name of the highest teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha, which is the Lotus Sutra. So our practice is based on that. And so the Gohonzon, the middle, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, is basically a mirror, but it's an internal mirror showing us that that is our purest, highest version of ourselves. And then all around there are like, the protective functions, names of like gods and different life conditions, the 10 life conditions that I talked about earlier, of where we experience life, right? So all of that is within our lives, and it is a small version of the universe, the macro. We're the micro of the macro. And so when we chant and fuse our focus with the Gohonzon, which embodies like the beautiful, profound universe, we are activating that within us. So we unite, kind of unite and pierce into that flow of the universe and be aligned to our authentic self. So that's the Gohonzon. And then I think I should talk a little bit about Myo, because that is just
Okay.
such a beautiful concept. So Myoho is loosely, it's translated to mystic, right? So the word myo, when we chant myo, and this is I believe it's the Sanskrit and Japanese translation of the Lotus Sutra, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So myo actually has three meanings. We say Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, that myo is so powerful because it means, number one, open. So what I said earlier, right? Opening our lives to perceive the vastness of the universe and to fuse with it. That's one meaning. The second meaning is fully endowed, right? That earlier what I said, that all of us have this Buddha nature, fully endowed. We are fully endowed with that superpower, this jewel within us. And this is what I love, because
We are the treasure tower.
we are the treasure. How beautiful. And how I feel like this is such a beautiful way to empower people, because other times in other practices, sometimes we're told we are originally sins, right? Like we were born with sins, and that's heavy, that's difficult. And of course in Buddhism we don't deny that. We know we make mistakes. We do, we do have to experience life through trial and error. We're not always perfect. in our behaviors, although we
Hmm.
have the perfect potential of Buddha,
Mm.
right? Um,
That's such a
so
good distinction. Yes.
right, so the practice is to always access that so we can behave from that place.
Yeah.
And we're not just having that jewel, letting it rust inside, right? We're
That you
actually
can make wise decisions from the wisdom of your practicing. Yeah.
exactly. So we're fully endowed. Second meaning. The
Okay.
third meaning is so beautiful. This is renewal. So myo is renewal. So anything in our lives that feels stagnant, right? Earlier you mentioned turning poison into medicine. That's another concept that we utilize in our practice. It's like whatever dirt or whatever gunk or whatever stuckness that we feel we're in, we can always renew. And even in our health, right? When our cells, where cells are actually constantly renewing. That's
Hmm.
the new studies about health is that there isn't a stop point, right? We're constantly renewing. But
Hmm.
if our
You're
mentality is
like a
always
whole new person every 7 years.
yes, yes. But the problem is sometimes we get stuck with that mentality, that belief that, oh, I'm sick, I have this, da da da. So even when your cells are trying to renew, you're kind of moving it back to its like sickness. So in
Mm.
this practice, we can utilize this practice to even regain good health after illness and while we're going through illness, because this concept of renewal of our cells, of our spirit, of our energy, everything. It's just so beautiful. So this myo is so powerful when we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and remembering this power inside of us. And every time we chant this, right, when we chant, there are two parts of the practice. We repeat Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is the essential practice. And every time we chant, we are strengthening that magnet within us, that magnet of, attracting all of the goodness of universe to manifest and to unfold in our lives, right? And then also the other part of the practice is the recitation of the two chapters. It's just a part of the two chapters of the Lotus Sutra, second and 16th chapter. And so that's what we call Gongyo. So that's our spiritual practice, the ritual parts of the practice, where in the morning and nighttime we chant. Morning is setting the tone for the day, right? When we are chanting in the morning, we're kind of like saying, okay, this is the frequency. We want to keep coming back to this aligned frequency no matter what happens throughout our lives daily. Right? So setting the tone for the day. It's almost like making that intention, but not just with words, not just with, writing. It's with our entire being. Like we're all made of atoms. So we're always vibrating, right? With atoms. So we're setting that vibration to the frequency that is the fullest potential in us. And then at night, we chant with gratitude for everything that has unfolded, right? And we getting into the state of gratitude is to me so magical, because when we're grateful for something, it's saying that we've already experienced the goodness of life, and so we're grateful for it, right? So in that, from that place too, I tend to chant for my dreams, right? In that place of like having it, feeling it already in my life, this
Yes.
activity of cause and effect, and then it has no choice but to unfold and to be realized and to be expressed in the tangible forms.
Yeah, and we don't have to strategize and know how. We just have to surrender over and give it over, right? When we're there chanting, just give
Yeah,
over the dream. Because the
yeah,
dream is so much bigger than we can even fathom.
yeah, you're right. I mean, most of the time when we chant for something, it's like something beyond our expectation just unfold, right? But we still need that focus. It's always good to have that focus. We write down our goals and then we chant about it, because we all need some direction in life, right?
Yeah, anything that motivates you, I think, like whether it's a goal or whether it's suffering, right? Like it doesn't matter
Yeah.
exactly what brings us that motivation, whatever it is, to
Yeah.
bring us to that like focused prayer. That's
Yes.
the whole point. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. Wow. Okay. I really love the way you kind of always put everything together in this big picture and summarize it in such a beautiful way. I love it.
Girl, you are on fire. Like listening to you talk about Buddhism has talk about renewal. Oh my gosh, I'm just renewed with the Buddhist spirit. I'm like, okay, yes, I'm gonna I'm gonna get back to it. Like, Because as you were talking about, like you go through these phases where you might not chant as often, or you might not chant with as much conviction, or you might not feel as much passion towards it, or you might chant, but you're not like fully engaged, or maybe you're doing it slightly begrudgingly. Like there are just different phases and ways that we approach our Buddhist practice. And the way you share about it, I'm just like, oh, yes, let me practice like that.
Oh.
Of course, your life has unfolded in these beautiful ways. So I don't want to skip over coming full, all the way to present time with your story. So
Okay, so
yeah.
let me share. So yeah, so that was I have to say, when I had my son, that was actually one of the scariest time of my life because I felt like I disappointed my mom and my dad who worked so hard. And I did have a little bit of this like, oh my gosh, is my life over? It was very scary for me coming from, the conditioning of my culture, right? So I really jump into my practice of, okay, how do I transform this? Right? How do I transform this into something that I can create value, not just to prove to my parents that this is not the end of my life, but also I feel to prove to myself, right? Like this is part
Mm,
of my fuel for growth.
mm,
So, so once I finished my master's, my ex looked for places in his career where I could continue my doctoral because I told my parents this is not the end. I'm still going to pursue my doctoral, in music, and I do want to utilize my talent to serve the world. So it was very tough, but I had a lot of depression, states where I just gosh, couldn't get up and slept very late, like just, all these like depressing
mm,
times. I even had like I didn't talk about this openly to I don't think my parents know about it, but now they might. But I had some suicidal like thoughts,
mm.
like but not in a way like I want to kill myself, but sort of like
Just like I'm done. Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
boost, it's so difficult. What do I do? Like and I
And this
remember
was probably postpartum, like
postpartum,
chemical. Yeah. It's not our
exactly.
fault when, so many, it's like, I don't know what the statistics are, but it's really high. It's like 80% of women feel these kind of depressive experiences because of the hormones.
Yes, and we're so ashamed of it. We
Of
start to
course.
feel like, oh my goodness, it's almost like for me, at least now it's out in the open. People talk more about it and there's so
Yeah.
much more support about it. But back then, because I already was trying to, in a way, prove myself, in a way, just find meaning in all of this, while taking responsibility for, my child, bringing my child into this life. And I was so scared, but I remember one thing that when I looked back and even felt like, okay, this is low. Like I said to myself in a journal I was writing, and I said, I'm even too chicken to kill myself.
Mm,
That's like, I mean, now looking back, I feel so much compassion for my younger self,
yeah.
suffering. But even in those times, right, I had my Buddhist friends who were like, I'm gonna come to your house and chant together. I
Yes.
didn't tell them that I was
Right.
going through those challenges, but I did say everything is difficult, right? And I
Right.
was going through this challenge, and I wasn't yet enrolled in my doctoral school, so I was just like, okay, what do I do? I have to take care of my son, and I felt now, I'm always loving on my son, but back then I was like, he's such a joy, but I was in this lower life state all the time.
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
struggling.
Yeah.
Um, and then my ex was, working, almost like every day I'm waiting on him. Like I'm just feeling like I'm like my life, I wasn't really living my fullest potential.
Yeah, you're like this really ambitious, smart woman, and all of a sudden you're just like sat here like doing laundry and like nursing or something, right? It's just
Yeah,
like, what
ironing
is
my ex's
happening?
clothes. I know, ironing my ex's clothes. I'm like, why am I doing this?
You're like, I'm so much more than this.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
so so then, I was like, okay. So once I started really again utilizing my practice, okay, I'm gonna get my green card. Actually, no, before that, yeah, I waited a while to get my green card. Actually, I just before that I said, okay, I need to apply for grad school, like doctoral school, and especially because my ex already chose a place that which is Kansas City and got the job. And by the way, we chanted so much for it because we wanted to change the trajectory of our lives. So together we were chanting hours every day to really get in that flow. And
Hmm.
then he got this job at University of New Mexico in sorry, University of Missouri in Kansas City.
Hmm.
So he already started working, but I was still trying to find my way to get to doctoral school and audition. And um, so in the end, I did get into the doctoral school, and that gave me, that spark, that purpose again. Like, okay, but
Yeah.
now, but now I have to take care of my son and go to doctoral school, and it was
Damn.
crazy trying to like
That's
handle
crazy.
it.
Yeah.
It's very
That's
tough.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't get, my parents' help because, in America, it's like we're so like there's such an individual life. In Malaysia, I think when I went back to visit recently, I remember, oh, there's a village to kind of take care of the family. But, I wanted to be independent and really tackle everything I needed to. And in a way, because I was so focused and determined and used my practice to help me, I was able to finish my doctoral degree in 5 years, no less.
Wow.
Same thing, my
Wow.
graduate school, I told my parents, I'm finishing it. I'm not going to even delay. It's going to be done. I am going to.
Wow.
So that determination that I have from my practice really helped to constantly show me, even in the midst of suffering, I can be victorious. Right. So, oh, right. Earlier I mentioned something about like punishment and reward in the
Hmm.
regular world. In Buddhism, our practice is all about winning, right? And win.
Yes.
And it's not losing to any competition. It is that
Over
internal,
ourself.
yes, that internal transformation. We call that human revolution. That internal struggle, moment to moment. What does victory look like? Right? It's not just like this, like, oh yeah, I got my degree. That's a victory. Yeah, that's
A
the
victory could be getting out of bed,
yes, exactly.
right? I mean, it depends on the day.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
But all these victories matter, right?
Yes.
Because they are all accumulating, right, in our growth in the way the person that we become. That is the ultimate victory of our practice, what we call the inconspicuous benefit. The person that we become, because that is unshakable. Everything else that we achieve, it's great. We love it, but it can go away at any time, like money, right? Status, this,
Yeah,
that.
fundamental happiness. Yeah. There was this Buddhist leader when I was practicing in West Hollywood, they said one time, and this was so inspiring. He was like, as soon as you do Gongyo, you have won. Once you've chanted in the morning, you've already won. And I like to say that I use that same expression when I'm facilitating my breathwork classes, is when people show up to breathwork class, I say, you've already won because you got yourself here. And that is the hardest part, I think, for so many things, right? Like you just getting to America and then you just like getting your son through each day that you got your son through and like and then like getting yourself to graduate each step of the way. It's like it's a million moments of showing up.
Yeah, well said. I love how you always bring things into like the real world and like the rawness of being human. You're right. I mean, at that time, I had this purpose to motivate me to show up, right? And then after I finished my doctoral, there was another dark moment for me where we moved to Seattle. And that manifestation of my depression was even worse, to the point where I woke up to, get my children to school. And again, this, I think if my parents listen to this, this is the first time they're going to hear of this because, I kind of just internalized a
You
lot of,
protect them. You protect
I-
them.
yeah, I didn't want them to know how much struggle I went through.
Yeah.
But after we moved to Seattle, it was really hard for me to find my career, to really start my career. I wanted to take a break. Part of it was me, just feeling like, okay, I've
You're
gone
burnt out.
years, I'm burnt out. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll just really put time to be a nurturing mom for my children. And even that was tough for me because I'm so used to working. So again, I turned to my practice to help me because the times when I was so depressed, my son one day came home, and this was again like this like wake up call for me where I needed to do something about this. I would get them to school, right? And then I'll come home and sleep. And I think
Mm.
part of it also is like, in this Buddhist practice, we don't let our environment sway us, but I truly did feel like the weather had a lot to do with it, with,
Oh, Seattle. It rains
yeah.
more than London. Yeah, I know because I'm right near Seattle and it rains all the time here.
Okay.
And
Right. Yeah.
it's hard. It's, if you're susceptible, which most of us are to the weather, you're
Mhm.
gonna feel that. Oh yeah.
Yes. And
Oh
then,
yeah.
so D, right? Low on vitamin D, that it all kind of affects our body.
Yeah.
So one day he came home from school. It was maybe like two-ish, and he had this disappointment in his face, and he said,
Mm.
"You're still asleep?" And then he walked away. And that just hit me so hard. Like that just made me feel like, okay, I need to do something about this. Of course, I
Yeah.
could tell him I'm depressed and this and that, right? But I just knew like, okay, that's my turning point. Like that I have to change this poison into medicine. When I went to the doctors, they wanted to prescribe me with antidepressant, but I'm just like a natural lady. I don't like any medication.
Right. Yeah.
Medication when I had my kids, that's it. I didn't take it. I didn't use any epidural for my two childbirths, so I took some
Same. Yeah,
medication.
same.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, no judgment on others, but for me,
Exactly. For you. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just kind of like a natural person. So I took maybe for like 2 days, and I tossed it in the trash, and I was like, no, I'm going to change this. So I
Yeah,
then
because it's just a band-aid anyway, and you want to feel the full spectrum of life.
yes, and transforming from the inside, right? I knew that I have the ability, I have the tool. I need to get like physically, I need to get active. I enrolled in like, gym classes, aerobics classes. I used to dance too, so that's why I think that had something to do with, me just
Yes,
like that,
yes.
right?
Like sunshine, movement,
Yeah.
actually feeling like you can talk to a human that understands you. I mean,
Yeah.
just these basic things that we need.
Yes, and so crucial, so essential. Sometimes we overlook these things, right?
Yeah.
So, and then, and I kind of lost my purpose because I couldn't find, a job for like even teaching job. For some reason in Seattle, it just didn't work out. I think again, the timing was I needed to face all the fundamental darkness that I didn't have
Mm.
to face when I was in school. I was so busy, busy, busy.
I was
So
just
now,
thinking that. I was like, you just pushed and pushed and pushed and made yourself do so much so ambitiously for so long and then became a mom. It's like at some point the legs were going to come out from under you. Like that was just inevitable. Like you're human.
literally, yes. I mean, I was like lying in bed, right?
I mean,
Uh,
it's like at some point, right? Life's
yes.
gonna kick it out from under you to just be like, girl.
Right, yeah, face your life, and so yeah, and now in hindsight, that was such a benefit, right? Because I couldn't run away, I couldn't bury myself in business. I really had to look at my life and all these limitations, these depressing tendencies that I have, and really transform it, right?
Yes,
So
and I also, sorry to interrupt you, but I just also want to say I feel like it gave you so much compassion for other people's struggles.
yes. Yes, for sure. I mean, because at that point I became real human. I'm like, what happened to me? I'm this invincible, powerful young lady, and now I'm this like in this mud hole that I
Yeah.
didn't feel I could get myself out of, and it just felt it was like I don't know. I just felt paralyzed. I'm like
Yeah.
constantly in this mud. So again, so fortunate for SGI, Soka Gakkai, because I needed some kind of purpose and focus aside from my career and my family to really move my life, like really get into action. I was able, again, because of my leadership positions, I was able to use that as a way to like, okay, I may have been sleeping till 2 p.m. Okay, come nighttime, I have this meeting I want to go to. I want to serve. I want to have something that I can contribute.
Yeah.
And that kept me going,
Yeah.
until able to transform my health and then
Yeah. And also when you go to those meetings and you hear other people's struggles, it takes you out of your own.
yes, yes. It
Yeah.
reminds me every time I encourage someone, it's like when you light a lantern for someone else, you're lighting the lantern for yourself actually, because you're reminding yourself of this, again, what I said earlier, all these infinite things, infinite possibilities that I had forgotten when I'm in this low life state and
Yeah.
struggling. Right?
Yeah.
And then I put all my creativity in my Buddhist meetings. Like I one time we had this Kozen Gongyo. I was thinking, how can I make this into a production?
So
So
Kozen Rufuganya is like a really, really big meeting, right? Yeah. So
we call
people,
it World Peace Meeting.
yeah.
So all of us come together once a month at the culture Buddhist Center, and we chant together, we listen to encouragement together, and we study together in a big big group. And then we also have the local smaller groups that is more intimate, that we can really share and
Dialogue, yeah. Hmm.
yes. So this Kosen Review meeting, for some reason, my creativity was at the peak because I haven't done anything with my music and creativity for a while. I was even feeling, so this is how bad it got, where I was feeling ashamed to go to my piano to play because I was like, I'm not that person anymore. I was like not good anymore. So I had that shame. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to utilize, create value out of this, like whatever thing I'm in. So I just pour all my energy into inspiring other people in the chapter. That time, the Kozerufu Gongyo was organized and coordinated by chapters. And so I just ask all the different members to utilize their skills. I worked with a young man, a youth, to write the scripts for the younger future division members, like the elementary and middle school kiddos, to act out this Alice in Wonderland. And then in the Wonderland is where we listen to experiences and get encouraged. And so I turned it into like a whole production with music, effects, and everything. It was just so wonderful and beautiful, and everybody really enjoyed it. So that was where I was able to really, utilize some of my energy that has been stagnant.
And your gifts, yes, yes.
So I'm
Yeah.
so thankful for this platform. And then I decided that, okay, my ex and I talked, and we said, okay, he was also in denial for a while because we had just bought a home to settle in Sammamish, Washington. And then we just said, okay, why don't we look into other places to move, because this is really not working out for us. I mean,
Mm.
to the point where I feel like Seattle was like rejecting me. You I have to help a friend. Um, I had to help a friend with the situation, and they needed to look up my driver's license, and they said, ma'am, you're not in our system. I was like, what do you mean? I have my driver's license. What does that mean?
Wow.
There was some error, and my name was still in the Kansas City system. So I
Interesting.
feel like,
You're
ooh,
like,
Seattle.
I'm not even here. I'm literally not here. Oh my gosh.
This
That's
is
so
like
funny.
my funny side. I was like, this is just, I mean, the universe is so funny sometimes the way things happen. I was like, oh yeah, I'm rejected from this place. It was so funny. Um, so we chanted again, to really transform our situation. So my ex, at the time, he was the main breadwinner of the family. So we were depending on his career.
Hmm.
So that was how we moved to California. So now we're here in the Bay Area.
Mm.
And then when we came to California, now I have to tackle the other part of my very shaky foundation. So my marriage was already very shaky to begin with. We didn't really have time to develop our foundation. I already jumped in with a child, right? And
Hmm.
that was already a time during my doctorate studies that we separated. So yeah, I forgot to talk about that. It was like doctorate, child, and possibly a divorce. It was, again, I was like, oh my gosh, like what?
I have this feeling though, Celeste, that there's probably a lot of people who couldn't make it through all of that combination of things with something not kind of losing its way,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like something had to give.
yeah,
So I feel like it makes sense, but then ultimately, like it was what needed to happen. It seems like because you're happy now, like I can
yes,
tell.
yes.
Yeah.
And And actually, I consider my ex as my good Buddhist friend because before
Mm,
I was bullied in school when I was young.
mm.
So I get into this trauma place where I just couldn't speak. If I
Right.
well,
Freeze.
I
Yep.
just I just cry and freeze. So
Yep.
that was me in dealing with a lot of our issues in our marriage. And so I felt that he was constantly like he took on the villain role. Like okay, I'm gonna be her villain this
Yeah.
lifetime
Yeah.
to train her
He's
into her.
like your Devadatta. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So, because of a lot of our lack of communication or just not able to be aligned, I learned
Hmm.
again Shoten Zenzin in my life. My friends who were attorneys, lawyers, taught me how to speak, how to present my point, how to get back, write your points down, get back, So I learned a lot of skills from them, aside from
Wow.
this, practice lots of practical things that I also gathered in my life. And this is why now I can like, talk so well. It's a lot of practice, right? And
Hmm.
so I learned that and I started to be able to communicate better with what we need in our marriage. And so because of that, we decided to try again and then had our daughter during my doctoral studies towards the end of
Wow.
Nice. So I finally had my parents come to help me at the end of my doctoral studies so that I could finish up my comprehensive
Oh,
exam,
nice. Nice.
recital, and then, so yeah, had two kids while I'm studying and still like, finish it on time and show my parents. That was like my gift to them that look, I did it. This is not the end of my life. I still got my doctoral degree as I had planned before I got married and before I had children. I can still continue to win in my life in my own unique way, right? And I feel now looking back, this is a journey that helps me, as you said, build compassion for others and also to see how powerful my life is through it all. Like, how did I continue to transform over and over and build this resilience that is unshakable now? Nobody can take it away from me, right? So, and then back to my ex. So he became this, I feel like, I mean, he's also human. So, he has a lot of things that he had to go through himself. Ultimately, we were just not a good match. So when we moved here to the Bay Area, um, our marriage fell apart. So this was a time that I had to confront, what do we do with this? And then and he admitted himself that during the time of our divorce, the 5 years, he wasn't behaving from his best self. And he told me later on that if he had a choice to change things, he would have
Mm-hmm.
done it very differently. So he kind of came from a very wounded place, very divisive, and so our children suffered a lot from it. I suffered a lot from it. But I had to I went from not having any more money to having an attorney's help to representing myself in court and
Wow.
being freaked out, not sure what to do and just like so much but because again of my practice, I chanted so much at the time to change and transform our family karma. I chanted
Yeah.
my ex's happiness because
Mm.
I feel that, if he's happy, he'll be a good father to our
Yep.
children.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
Ultimately, this is a pattern in my life. Why is it that he could be nice to other people, but to me, he behaved that way? It's because of my karma too. So in our Buddhist practice, we transform our karma into mission. So karma is not just like a punishment, it's actually fuel for our mission, right?
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
that spark that helps us, that training ground that helps us finally shine in our best self, right? But we need
Shine
a
bright like a diamond. Yes. Polishing your diamond. Yeah.
pushing inside, yes.
Yes.
So yeah, so at the end of our divorce, I could see that it is what I've always chanted for, which is a harmonious teamwork, right? So once we had the settlement done with the court's help, again, everything was like, getting support from our chanting. Then he came and he did the paperwork. He drove both of us to the court. On the way home, we were talking about our children. So, after 5 difficult years, I could see this was the end result of my prayers. But it took 5 years of a lot of growth, a lot of human revolution,
Mm.
constantly still believing in his Buddha nature and my Buddha nature when things were difficult, right? And then I had to learn how to to set healthy boundaries. That was something I was not very good at because of being bullied at school. I didn't know how to set healthy boundaries. So, people are always like, stepping all over me, but it's not their
Mhm,
problem. I didn't have
mhm,
boundaries, right?
mhm.
So I became this powerful self. And then also during that time, I learned to be a much more present mother to my children, learning to be more compassionate towards them. And because of my practice as well, there were times when I'm crying about things, and then I have to have a phone call with one of the members I'm supporting, and my daughter
Mm.
witnessing how I overcame her, witnessing my process to me is like everything, right? This is,
I
I
mean,
don't even,
when you're suffering that much and you show up for someone else as their sunshine, that is true love.
yes, yes. And also to me that's like that's the beauty of humanity.
Yeah.
Like we're suffering, it's so easy for us to look at others, judge and say like, I want to avoid them, or like, toxic people, blah blah blah, whatever.
Mm-mm. I
Beauty
don't
of
believe in that. This whole thing of labeling people, I mean, that's not Buddhist. I don't think. Like it's like no, you might be bringing something out of someone in certain situations, or they're on a path of learning. I think most people aren't just like purely toxic. No one's purely a Buddha or purely a Devadatta is just like an evil person, right? It's like we all are just functions for other people in their life. We're a different character depending on who's relating to us.
exactly right on the money. That word function you use, right? It's like they function.
Yeah.
Their behavior may be toxic, and that's what I love
Yeah.
about the separation of people's behavior
Yeah.
versus who they are authentically, their innate nature, the Buddha,
Yeah.
right? So our behavior is kind of like it could be affected by many different factors, including our karma too, because these are patterns that we need to play out, we need to transform, so it comes up like that's part of the story, right? That's part of the journey. So because of that, that responsibility I have as a leader to support others, I feel like I was healing from
Mhm.
that, taking on that responsibility. And
Yeah.
it's why, in this organization, we always share openly and always generously share with others. It's because when we're sharing, we get to heal ourselves as well.
Yes.
We
Yes.
get to, bounce off like the mirror, right? Like always the people we're working with are things that we ourselves need to transform within us.
Yeah, and so I think we should wrap this up with a little segment about human revolution,
Okay.
right? Because this is what we're talking about, is like the potatoes, right? The
Yeah.
potatoes in a bag, like rubbing up against each other and getting those little sprouts off of the potatoes, because like when we come together with all of our karma, and we rub up against each other, we interact with each other, we're going to bring out each other's darkness, but also going to bring out each other's light. We're going to be mirrors to each other, and we're going to do what we call our human revolution. So the people in our lives, these other souls, like we're all meant to, the people that we practice with, the people that we're in relationship with, those are the people that we're really going to work out our karma with, is the people like our ex-husbands, our parents, our children. These are the people we have the deepest, thickest, most dramatic karma with, because like we on some level made an agreement as souls, like, yeah, let's come together, let's do our human revolution together. We're going to learn. We're going to make mistakes together.
Yes, yes, love it. Yes, there's another what when you were saying that, like, we kind of made an agreement. There is a concept in Buddhism called voluntarily assuming one's karma, which
Mm.
is a concept. Like it's like, okay, we made an agreement. We're gonna come into this lifetime. We're gonna evolve together. We're gonna rub against each other's like, dirt and then shine together. And then we play out these stories, with the people we're closest to, or, everybody we encounter. There's
Yeah. Like the
lesson.
district, our discussion meetings, like when we get together and we practice in our little families, our little Buddhist families, like they're not, blood family, but like the people that are in our neighborhood and our area, that becomes your family to work out your karma with.
Exactly. And then that's the beautiful thing about Buddhism. So then there's not like, okay, infinite resentment. I mean, we all know we need to forgive people, right? It's always for ourselves. But deeper than that, the Buddhist practice is you chant for that person's happiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, like how, like, and
Like how evolved, yes.
I remember one of my human revolution was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this person's human nature, Buddha nature is there, but I have to check for his happiness. At that time when I'm all riled up with like, this story playing
Yeah.
and his behavior, like, towards me and how I get activated and get, triggered. But he was helping me work out my triggers, right? Like, so I have
Yeah.
my children, this and that. So back to that, like one process I want to share is that when I was crying and everything, my daughter said to me, Mom, how are you going to pick up this phone call to talk to somebody? You're like falling apart yourself. And I was like, no, I have to, because I promised her I was going to have this dialogue and support her. At the end of the conversation, she had the chance to also support me back and give me
Mm.
this beautiful, like, that's what the other thing about this Buddhist practice is we're all equal. We may be supporting one person at one point, but they support us back because we're all equal.
Yes.
It doesn't matter our gender, our status, our wealth, our whatever. We're all equally Buddhas and have this potential. And so she saw how I was able to utilize this practice and also do my human revolution. I've written like letters to my son. He's so uncomfortable about it. I'm like writing apology letters of how I was when I was a younger mom. I had a bad temper. I didn't have the most patience, and then now
Mm.
what kind of relationship I want with him. And he's
Oh.
like, okay, mom, okay, like, but okay, you don't have to share everything you're working with me. He's just kind of like,
Yeah,
but
he's embarrassed now, but later he'll so much appreciate that because
I'm
how
sure.
many moms, how many children wish that their moms would write that type of a letter and they never have, right?
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
so much humility. Yeah.
Yes, and that's why I am happy now that I'm becoming more and more authentic to myself. I'm like, okay, I don't care what, other parents do. I'm gonna be my authentic, expressive self. And I'm sure you're gonna love it at, some point when you realize this is great for both of us. But just so much human revolution I did. Even now with my daughter, there are times when I'm like this, like, strict mom, and then I chant about it. I'm like, oh, I can start feeling her suffering. And then I start to do my human revolution and like, okay, how can I help her? How can I support her? And at the same time, how can I believe in her?
Yes, yes, yes.
Other thing, right? How do I believe in her potential no matter what it looks like right now, her teenage years, like she's playing out her teenage thing. And I'm like so upset at certain things. But then when I chant, again, I start perceiving the nature of things and like, okay, then I go to her. I'm okay. I apologize, just being human, right? Like apologize. Okay, how can we make this better? Let's chant together, and then also me knowing that she and both my children, every single person has a unique vision and mission, has a unique purpose. And in order for them to fully transform into butterflies, they have to go through that cocoon, that self.
Yeah, all the ugly, crappy, muddy stuff of life and like trusting our children's lives. Like we can't protect them from their own cocoon process. Like we have to just be next to them and say, I'm always gonna be here though. I'm always gonna be here through it, no matter what it is. Oh,
Yes.
you're such a good mom, Celeste. And also, I just want to say about the friendship piece because like you being a good friend to all of these people that you've been a good friend to, that's why you've created such amazing karma and continue to create such amazing karma in your life is because you've made these causes of friendship. And to me, like that's so much what SGI, the Soka Gakkai, is about, is like really, it's really about these heart-to-heart bonds.
Yes. Yes, it's like, when we share our struggles, right, together and then we chant together. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna like win and show this like medal of like winning this and then I'll come help you. No, it's like, hey, we're struggling together, but we can do this together. That itself, I feel, deepens our bond as like, Soka sisters, Soka brothers, that friendship goes beyond just like, hey, what do we want to go shop at? Where do we want to eat at? I mean, we do that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like it just goes into such a deep level, right? And then
Like really
um
supporting each other's dreams. Yeah.
And I wanted to point out, you said a really beautiful word that sparked something in me. You said
Mm,
protection, right? So physically, we cannot protect our children everywhere. They're all, they're going to grow, they're going to have their own lives. And then the other beautiful thing about this practice is the protection piece, I feel. So the protective forces, because earlier we talked about that, comes in the forms of like friends and people who kind of somehow become like our support system, right? So my mom, when she chanted all the way from Malaysia for me in America to have these protective forces, came in forms of people. I do the same for my children.
yeah.
I do the same now for my parents. And even
Mm,
for the deceased, like we have in our prayers, we chant for our deceased relatives and friends because life is eternal in our lens, right? In our Buddhist lens,
mhm.
our energy of life is eternal. Our physical form will end at some point,
Yeah,
right?
you cannot create or destroy it. It's just, it is.
Energy, yeah, and yes, perfect. Yes, that's right. So energy cannot be destroyed. So life is eternal. So because of that, there's so much solace and comfort in knowing that no matter where we are, we can always chant for our children to be protected. We can always chant for, and then with my son, right? Like when he went into the Air Force, and then now he's graduating and he's going this fall, he's attending Brown University, full financial aid. So, another like, what we call benefit, right? Actual evidence
Mhm.
our practice. And even though he's not fully active right now with the organization, he still chants. And I can see in his life, there's so many protective forces. Even like this ending part of his contract with the Air Force, he gets to do honor guard duty, which is like, honoring the deceased. And to see my son, like when I saw the ceremony of like folding the flag and then him presenting the flag to the family and whispering comforting words and thanking the family for the service. I mean, like it's like, wow,
Mm.
it's like my son gets to experience the profundity of life at this young age. He's 22, just turned 22 this month. At this young age, right? It's just like, wow.
The
Yeah.
pride just welling up inside of you for the man that he's become because of yes, him, but also so much because of you. It's beautiful. Well, Celeste, thank you so much for sharing. Like I can hear it in the quivering of your voice that you're just opened your heart to us and you've shared things twice that you didn't think you would share that you haven't shared with your parents before. Like that is such trust. So thank you for, really trusting me and trusting the community that's going to be listening to this and sharing in this vulnerable way. Like that vulnerability is so courageous and I appreciate it so much. I definitely feel that the people listening are going to benefit so much from you sharing your heart in this way and also your passion and your knowledge, your wisdom. Like you're very, very, very knowledgeable and very studied. You're very wise and you're very passionate and you're very creative and you're very determined. So it's like all of this creates this recipe for this incredible, incredible celestial, brilliant, huge person with a massive mission. You're so inspiring. And I know that everything you touch is going to keep turning to gold. And there's gold in every piece of your story, every piece, even the parts in Seattle, even the parts with your husband, and all of it. It's such gold. Thank you for who you're showing up as in the world. I know that your mission, like when you show up to these interviews, is to be the voice of the Buddha, and you did that. So
Oh,
thank you. Thank you.
oh, Siri, thank you so much. I receive everything you're saying with so much appreciation. I feel like you brought that out in me. I feel like you brought out this, you're so comfortable to talk with. Your presence is just so beautiful and so shining and radiant as well that I feel like together we're interacting, like sparks. So I really appreciate you for bringing this part out of me and all the beautiful, encouraging words that you're saying to me, I receive with so much appreciation.
Thank
Thank
you. You're
you.
welcome. Well, we're best friends now, so I can't wait to see you.
Yes, I want to meet in person. I want to chant together. I'm entering this new phase of like, getting out more to perform and starting a creative project and
Yes.
we continue to grow. And so I'm really happy that we're now friends and I can't wait for us to interact more.
Yeah, so tell our community here that's listening, what would you like them to, what action would you like them to take? Do you want them to come find you somewhere? Is there some program or course or something you want to offer? Where do you want them to find you?
Okay, thank you. So yes, I have my website, celestechiam.com. That's more towards my teaching philosophy, but the creative project, there's a page on there that I'm beginning, and this is all about putting all my creative skills together and also being this, I hope, a little contributor to what I would like to see in the future, which is the thriving artist movement. There's so much of this starving artist thing, and then I have so many talented artist friends that I feel we can support society so much more. And so this creative project is all about bringing all my dance friends, my musical theater friends, myself musician. I'm not yet active in my acting. I'm just starting to take classes, but I feel like it's all already, within me. But
Yeah.
I want to offer this creative play shop for people to experience what it's like to feel their creativity activated,
Mm.
come back to this place of playfulness and joy and just juiciness of life through the help of all my talented artist friends. So we'll get to do a lot of playful activities, music, and then at the end of the retreat, we get to just enjoy the performance, the high vibration music and acting and singing of all my artist friends so that you can feel rejuvenated, from the creative side. So that's one of my new offerings. And my team
Hmm.
and I, we are just starting. So if you're interested to sponsor us, to hire us, to work with us, please contact me through my website or I'm also on Instagram. So that's the exciting new offering that I would like to share with everyone.
Okay, what's your name on Instagram?
So my name is Celeste. Well, it's spelled Celeste, Celeste,
Yeah.
pronounced dot Chiam, Chiam.
Okay, so Creative Rejuvenation Play Shop is the full immersion body spirit 3-in-1 fun experience led by performing artists and energy coaches to facilitate wellness and rejuvenation in elevated states. Celeste is happy to serve in awakening joy and expanding love through play and artistic expression. So I'll put this all in the show notes. If you guys are curious, if you have questions, if you want to get involved, if you want to support financially, whatever sparks you, you can get in touch with Celeste. And if you have questions, obviously, about anything we talked about Buddhism, you want to get connected to your local Buddhist community, I'm going to put that in the show notes as well, so you can do that. And this is in 63 so far, maybe more countries that this podcast has reached. So
Oh,
I'm going to put the what is the it's there's like the international one. It changed what the website
yes.
is.
Yes, SGI. Yeah, so sgiglobal.org is where
Okay.
you get all the, Buddhist concepts. And then at the bottom, I believe you can go to, or just sgi.org. Also, you can find all the different countries link to the local organization or call them or email them so they can connect anybody who wants to practice with the local members there. And then
Okay.
there's also Buddhability, so buddhability.org, and that's the more modern website for people who are like just wanting little bite sizes of things. And I feel like it's catching up with a lot more of the modern terminologies. It does go deep too, but it's just more practical parts of art
Okay.
that people can
Yes. Okay. So
really
I'm going to put that as well. Bootability.com, you said, or .org?
.org.
Okay. Bootability.org. I'm going to put that as well. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful rest of your day. We'll see you soon.